All right, welcome everybody to today's webinar. This is a makeup for Thursday, and actually this is going to be a very important webinar for all of you guys, especially you new people, and also for a lot of you guys that have been around who are still struggling, perhaps because you have not watched all the DVDs, and perhaps because you just are not catching on quick enough. And this will be a refresher. Nothing from this webinar should be brand new. A lot of this, unless you know you're brand new to the challenge and you really haven't seen majority of the webinars and the videos, which you should be watching. Um, so without further ado, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about the pre-flight checklist for trading penny stocks, and this is absolutely critical for every single one of you. We're going to go through the basic steps that are required before you trade in terms of your approach to a particular stock, why you're potentially looking at the stock and attempting to trade it. So there's a number of criteria. We're going to go through those. I will try to keep it simple. And I ask that you please save your questions for the end of the webinar, and then I'll do a Q&A. And if we don't have enough time for all the questions, you're very welcome to email me. My exclusive email for challenge students, I'll put it in here. mark.crook@timothysykes.com. All right, so let's get right into this. We're going to talk about some current setups, and we're going to develop a watch list for tomorrow based on stocks that are in play today. And we're going to go over a number of things that really will bring home the importance of developing a daily game plan so that you're fully ready to trade each and every day. Some days, again, there won't be any trades or there won't be ideal trades. Too many of you guys are always looking for the next big runner, the next big trade, but understand that we've just been in a really hot market lately, and we're now in June. Today's June the 20th, 2016, and we have been in a super hot penny stock market the last few months, and hopefully it continues. But you know, we're approaching summer, so things could slow down. Don't get frustrated. Understand that there's always the next opportunity and the next setup. You just have to be ready for it. So let's get started. We'll jump right into number one, pre-flight checklist. Number one, identify a stock that is a big percent gainer, above 10%, ideally a former runner, and predictable in terms of its trading history. So this is very basic. So I know a lot of you guys are already on stocks to trade, so you'll be using stocks to trade to identify news catalysts or stocks that are moving in the morning, and finding those stocks that are ideally up 10 to 20% with the possibility of spiking further. That's if you're looking to buy some of these plays that have been running. Again, I'm more of a short bias trader. I like to react to a lot of these penny stocks that are running for a day or two, sometimes 3 or 4 days, and then ultimately they come right back down. As you guys know, penny stocks are some of the worst companies, if not the worst companies, on the stock market. So a lot of these stocks as much momentum as they do have initially on the front side, they will come back and they will get typically crushed all the way back down. So it's fine to play them both ways, but understand that some of them, if not most of them, will not run for much more than a day or two. Sometimes you have the multi-day run-ups like MGT with the pump that went from let's say, what was it, around $1 to roughly 570 before crashing, and now it's bouncing again. But understand that you need to do this every day, and what we're going to go through this right now to identify these runners. So Yahoo Finance is another place to look, finviz.com. TheLine.com is another place I still like to look, and I'll show you why. So we're going to go through that now. Let's take a look at the next slide. Before we actually get into what's running, I want to make sure you guys are fully clear on the procedure, the procedure, which I call the pre-flight checklist. You cannot fly the plane without doing the pre-flight procedures, and this is absolutely critical to look up the stock's float, the shares outstanding, and the number of shares short. I don't care what the hell you're trading, you do it every damn time. Too many of us are getting emotional, perhaps just jumping into a trade because they saw an alert, which they should not be doing from the very beginning. So this will always remind you to identify the stock's characteristics, the basic characteristics. So we're going to be looking at the float, the shares outstanding, and the number of shares short. Very basic, very easy to do, and we're going to go through that. So remember, a low float stock or heavily shorted stocks can squeeze further than you think. Case in point, HMNY, BSPM, and they crash even quicker once the momentum turns. We'll talk about these two, especially because they are very fresh in a lot of our trading minds, and they're two of the really good examples in terms of low floaters. So as I said, we're going to look them up, look these statistics and characteristics up on Yahoo Finance under key statistics. Short statistics are updated bi-monthly or twice a month on the 1st and the 15th. So many people are always asking in the chat room or on email, and I'm just going to always refer back to this webinar now in terms of finding out the basics. What is the short? What are the short statistics of any particular stock? And while some traders may say that they don't pay too much attention, I still say rather be safe than sorry. Always look at these statistics and make sure that you're on your way to a safe takeoff and a safe landing. I think it's a very good analogy in terms of the pre-flight checklist for trading as it would apply to the pre-flight procedures before you take off, and in an airplane, obviously, so being a pilot. So treat this as a very meticulous job, and there's a lot of these little things that you just need to do. They're very basic, but they're simple and easy to do. So let's go through. Let's look first at one example, and then we'll start to look at today's potential watch lists, and as it applies to some of the next few steps, which we'll also go through, obviously, as part of the pre-flight checklist. So this is a Yahoo Finance, This is HMNY, and we've clicked here. This is the page that comes up when you click on key statistics. This is actually copied from last week, so it's not, obviously the stock's not trading at 13 bucks, but understand that you click for any stock, you get to the page, click on key statistics, as I've noted here with the red arrow on the left side, and what you want to do is scroll down on the right side and look here at these arrows that I have pointed over here. So shares outstanding 2.33 million. The float, according to Yahoo Finance, is 319,000. Now, sometimes it's good to double check in other places, and you can do that at FinViz, and we'll go through that as well when we go through. In fact, I'll do that now momentarily. So here you can see the shares short, 1.6K. This information is old. It's useless. So sometimes for a low floater, the information is useless because the stock has not really traded any shares before or on the date that these shares short were reported. So in this case, they're reporting the shares short on May 31st, 2016. So let's take a quick look. I just want to show you guys why this is old information, and not to automatically think that you should not look at it for any other stock. It's just in this case, if you look at the chart on HMNY, you will see the first day it ran was on June the 6th. And before that, if you look at the longer term chart, which is on my pre-flight checklist, by the way, which we will go over in a bit in terms of looking at historical price action. But you can see that really very little volume. I believe this was a reverse split, and I think a reverse merger, but I don't want to get too much into that right now. The bottom line is the run only started in early June, so you will not see any shares short, barely a negligible amount of shares, because the run did not really take place. Now, if we were to check this on, this should actually be updated. June the 15th, typically, as I said earlier, the 15th and the 31st of the month, the stock is updated with the shares short. So we're going to go to one other place. We're going to go to NASDAQ.com. We're going to put in HMNY. So add that to your list, NASDAQ.com. In fact, I'm going to add that to my slide here, NASDAQ.com, as a resource. And lower down, you can see short interest. So let's see if they've updated the short interest. And it looks like they have not. So HMNY, not updated. And sometimes that information can take a few extra days. So I would guess that the 615, as you can see here, every 15 days or so it updates. In this case, it's probably going to be a few, probably I would think tomorrow or Wednesday, Thursday, and they'll update the shares short. So that's just a pointer. If you don't see the most updated in terms of the 1st or the 15th, the 31st or the 15th, that is why, because it probably takes a day or two extra. So very simple. Okay, so now what I want to do is go through today's movers, and we're going to identify what's been running today, what uh, exactly what I've written here, big percent gainers. We're going to look at some charts to see if they're former runners and predictable in terms of their trading history. And if they are, we're going to write them down as potential plays for tomorrow. Again, this is very basic. You guys should know these basics when you do your research. But the important thing that I want to emphasize that you need to do this each and every time. A lot of you forget to do it each and every time. And if you forget just that one time, that might cost you on the next trade. You might have done the research 9 out of 10 times, and the one time you didn't realize it was a low float that had significant resistance right where you bought it. So let's go through some plays. We're going to first look on FinViz, and this is actually very good because I have not really reviewed. I was at a medical appointment this morning, and so I only really uh, got in for the last 3-4 hours of trading today and focused on a couple of plays on my watch list. So this is going to be great because you'll get to see how I'm going through this systematically. So we're going to click on Screener here. We're going to look at the technical tab, and we're going to say today 10 plus 10%, and the volume. We're going to look at the biggest volume plays. So this will, if you click on the volume from largest to least, you will see what the biggest movers were on that were up 10% or more. So Marathon Oil, not interested. It's oil and gas. It's large cap, 10.7 billion. NVCN. So I know a lot of you guys were talking about this in chat. I was on a lot of watch lists. Let's assume I didn't do. I'm brand new, and this is a new play to me. So NVCN, it's 85 cents today. And just to confirm, I want to make sure the sound is still good and everyone is on connected up properly. So we all still connected and running smoothly. Type yes if you are good to go. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure everyone's good. So NVCN, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add this to the bottom of my slide. We're going to say 620 NVCN is our first one. All right, let's go back to our screener. GSAT is up 11.67%, so I know that is a former runner. We'll take a look at that one, GSAT. LPTN up 44%. This is let's see, $5 million company. Okay, so LPTN, I believe a lot of you guys were trading that. We'll look at that one. TERP is a large cap, irrelevant, TLOG. And as you can see here, when you scroll over the ticker, you can see the chart. And that also helps to judge whether or not this is something that you want to look at. So TLOG, we'll take a look at it. It's a biotech listed at 6.8 million market cap, which is extremely low, but it did 5 million shares today, 63%. So we'll take a look at that. TLOG, I'll put it on there. And remember, a lot of these plays will not make the cut. And that's what it comes down to, determining what will make the cut for potential play tomorrow. FATE, I saw some people talking about this in the chat room today. 51 million market cap, 4.5 million shares traded, and $2 a share. Biotechs have been hot. We'll take a look at that, what the catalyst was, and go through that accordingly. So FATE, we'll look at that one. MCUR, another biotech, $22 million market cap, $1.50 a share, 4.5 million. Sorry about that, guys. All right. So MCUR, this is a former runner, as you can see, going back to late April. So I'll take a look at MCUR. Let's make a little bit more room for this. SGY, not that exciting of a chart. Let's see, Stone Energy, it's oil and gas. I'm going to leave that off because oil and gas is not ideal for Tim's strategy. Sometimes if you get these perfect breakouts or supernovas, then they become interesting. But this is a chart that I'm not interested in. And it, of course, as I said, it's energy. So CRC, also another energy play, 507 million, as you can see here, not interested. BLIN, okay, this is another play that I've seen run before. For you new guys, you will begin to recognize a lot of these tickers as you go along in your trading research, in your trading careers. You will recognize former runners. So BLIN, let's look at the chart here, and it's still kind of in a very tight base in the low ones. It looks like they had news early June. I don't believe I traded this one, BLIN, but it was up on some pretty good volume today, 3.7 million, which is half the float. So I'll add that one. And this is great because we're going to have plenty to look through. As I said, this has been a really hot market lately, so lots going on. STEM is a biotech, 49%, up 49% today, excuse me, on 2.1 million shares. According to this, the market cap is 4 million. I just want to double check that on Yahoo Finance, see if Yahoo Finance agrees. Sometimes the market caps can be wrong, guys, so it's good to double check other places. So according to Yahoo Finance, it's 6.64 million. And it is up even in after hours. Interesting. So I'll add that one as well. Biotechs, as I said, is a hot sector lately, and we'll talk about hot sectors in a little bit as we go through the pre-flight checklist. So STEM, we'll add that one. CPRX, $65 million company, up 10%. Let's take a look at the not interested. This is a slow mover, tons of resistance up in the 120s. We're not going to talk about CPRX. HEB, another biotech, irrelevant, 11 cents a share, 12 cents rather. GEN, another biotech, up, but you can see the chart here is a long downtrending chart. Lots of bag holders. Not interested in Genesis Healthcare, GEN, which is actually a $220 million company. BIND Therapeutics, you can see the volume is the volume on a lot of these plays is very minimal, 590,000. Not interested in any of these charts. Nothing. Now, NEFF does look like a breakout to me, but looks like they are rental and leasing services, $235 million market cap, but the volume's of only 460K. I'm going to leave that one out. It's $11.50 a share, so not very relevant to small cap penny stocks for ideal plays go anyways. NTN, I know that this is a play that is $450 million company market cap. It did 400,000 shares, but that is not ideal. So again, we're going to leave NTN off. And that's really it, guys, on as far as FinViz goes. And you can see the volume's very minimal on the rest of the plays here. So now, excuse me, one second. Excuse me. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to look on Yahoo Finance. We're going to see if we missed anything that perhaps did not show up on FinViz. We're going to look we go to market data. And the market movers. So let's take a quick look. Likely we will probably find all of the same plays that we just talked about from FinViz, but we will go through them just to make sure. So NTN we talked about, not interested. LPTN we found already. MYOS, 200,000 volume, not. Well, let's take a quick look. And unfortunately, Yahoo Finance doesn't give you the best chart to look at, so not interested in this chart. This is not heavily traded, therefore I'm not going to investigate further on MYOS. NRP is a natural resource company, not interested in it. SGY, energy, not interested. Genesis Healthcare, I believe we ruled that one out, which is a 200, is that the $200 million one? I think so. Yes, so Genesis Healthcare, we ruled that one out already. And remember, guys, volume is absolutely critical. If there's no volume, don't even bother. FATE. That was the one that we talked about in the last uh, FinViz scan that we did, and we'll go through that one. MCUR as well. STRP is high price, not interested. BLIN, we already put that one down. CNAT is a biotech, but it only did 330,000 today. Not interested. And I think we ruled it out. Yeah, we ruled it out already. CRC also energy play. So the rest of these plays intersect or overlap with the ones that we've already looked at. GSAT, we already looked at that one and marked it down. Another energy company, XCO. So you can see the volume on the rest of these is very little, very pure, very minimal, and so that's automatically on ignore. And the last place we're going to look, guys, is thelion.com. And this is a place I like to look really at this window here. If you look at the stocks to watch, you're gonna find the stocks that are most discussed in the message boards, and typically those are your biggest movers. So you can see NTN did actually have more it's actually number one. So I tell you what, we're gonna just for in research purposes, we're gonna put NTN on there. I'd like to see if there's a really solid catalyst there as to why it's up, and we'll investigate that. TLOG we already looked at. STEM, LPTN. So you can see a lot of overlap. And these other plays are energy, NRP, SGY, Genesis Healthcare. So a lot of overlap. STRP showing up again, MCUR, FATE. So again, this is kind of like a double check. You can see that the volume is on the far right on thelion.com. But this is kind of your last check just to see if there was anything missed. And again, there's GSAT. So let's go back to our watch list now and figure out what we're going to look for as it relates to the pre-flight checklist. All right, so here's our watch lists, potential plays for tomorrow. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and this is in addition to plays from prior days, obviously, that you should keep track of. And that's why I say you must continuously do the work and the research so that you can add it to your watch list and then delete them when they're no longer applicable. So let's move forward a slide, guys. We talked about the float, shares outstanding, and number of shares short. We'll go through that as we do the research for each of these companies. So let's talk about why the stock's up. What is the catalyst? Obviously, more catalyst equals greater odds of the stock spiking for multiple days. And as all of you should know already, earnings winners are potential buys. A lot of times you have low flow junk that runs for a day. The one example that comes off the top of my head is LBIX. It ran for a day, and then I said avoid low flow junk. And let's take a look LBIX to see what it did. And you can see all the way back down to $1.90. That's why I say avoid low float junk. This thing ran from the low ones all the way to the threes, and now all the way back to the high ones. So avoid low float junk. As you know, sometimes if the price action is right, it's a former runner, as we talk about in a second. It could certainly run multiple days, but focus on the odds. And so we know that contract winners are also potential buys. Technical breakouts are a catalyst in and of itself. And so ideally, if you have an earnings winner that's a breakout, obviously that increases the odds of the stock running. Then we also have pumps, promotion, newsletters or seeking alpha. A lot of times companies are putting out PRs, and these plays, while they are potentially squeezers and potential buys if you do like to buy pumps, you do have to be very careful. And a lot of shorts get in front of the initial move, and that's why these pumps can go further than you think. Ultimately, they do become potential shorts. So understand that pumps are not to be married in terms of holding overnight or holding multiple days. Very, very dangerous. In general, promoted stocks on the bulletin boards have been dead for quite some time now. But the good news is on the Nasdaq there have been quite a lot of pumps in terms of seeking alpha articles and perhaps different message board pumps or perhaps even paid compensation for some pumps on some Nasdaq plays. So that's been good in terms of the fact that that bulletin board OTCs have not been in play for quite some time. So we talked about hot sectors earlier. Biotechs, oil, Ebola, low float, all of these are hot sectors. They can be potential buys, and obviously shorts when the momentum reverses. And I should have that in bold, and I should have it. I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger, just to emphasize the fact that hot sectors ultimately crash, and we have really been in kind of this incredible low floats mania. You take a look at HMNY, which ran this. We talked about BSPM in the chat room. I'm actually short overnight. First red day. This should come down quite well. I'm short from 520. I had 5,000 shares and accidentally covered half at 5, but this should probably test the low fours tomorrow. And again, a low floater, pile of junk. What are some other low floaters? I believe JAGX was another one, just from looking at my watch list. We've had LBIX was actually a low float as well. And then you had even LPTN today was a low floater that couldn't hold its gain. So we've been in this low float mania. A lot of these stocks are reverse splits or reverse mergers, whatever they might be. But there's a reason they're low priced and that they never hold their run-ups, because there are longer term bag holders, and short sellers will come in where the key resistance is, and you'll have longer term bag holders that are selling, or perhaps insiders that are selling. But these are dangerous because they can run as we talked about earlier, they can run further than you might think because they are low float and very volatile. And so in this case, we've actually have two hot sectors. We have biotechs and low floats. So you put the two together, and that makes for, you know, a pretty darn good sector. Um, and when you couple that, or you know, triple it now with a technical breakout, if you have a biotech, a low float, and a technical breakout, um, it could certainly, a lot of these plays could certainly run when they fit this criteria. So it's very important to realize the characteristics of the stocks that are running and put the pieces of the puzzle together. Understand why these low floats are running. It's simply low float mania. It's penny stock hype. We're just in one of those markets right now where low floaters are running, and biotechs have been hot as well. So so that's the reason why you've seen a lot of these plays running. Does that mean they're all buys? Absolutely not. And in fact, a lot of them, if not all of them, or most of them, are shorts. Yes, you can buy them on the way up, but don't expect to give it too much time. A lot of you guys are too patient, and when the stock doesn't do what it should be doing, or what you think it should do, then you better get out. BSPM, good example. People thought that this thing was going to break out. You had a lot of chat rooms buying BSPM up here in the resistance when it was taking out 6. It did hit 650, and now you can see it's really fallen off quite sharply, and this is why it's so good to be short on a first red day. After such a big run up from the 1s to the 6s, you have a first red day, you have to pull the trigger. E-Trade had shares to short. Stock starts fading off of the afternoon support area in the 520s, 528 to be exact. And if you look at the longer term intraday, rather the intraday over the past, let's say 10 days, now we're back. We're hitting this support zone in the 470s, 480s. If that's taken out, then we're looking at the low 4s, if not the 3s. So BSPM, a good example of one of these low float junk plays. You can buy it on this green day here when support holds in the 3s and you get the volume coming back. I would say, this is a pretty good risk reward play. It fits the criteria for a biotech. It's a low float, and it's kind of a mini breakout through 450. So if you bought at 450, it goes, went all the way up to 6. You had a lot of chat rooms chasing this, and once the music's over, the party's over, so to speak, then this is what happens. Unless there's some kind of pump, PR, or some kind of catalyst tomorrow, I think I fully expect to see this down in the low 4s. So once again, you can play it long, you can play it short, but for me, I'm more short biased. And even for those of you guys with smaller accounts, if you take 300 or 400 shares on this first red day, there are good odds that this thing comes all the way back down, and you can make a solid dollar. My goal is to make $1 a share overnight. And ideally, I would have had 5,000 shares. I only have 2,500, but probably better to be conservative in this case. It's only 2 million shares in the float. Let's take a quick look at BSPM in terms of the float. As I always tell you guys, we look at the key statistics. And you can see the float's 1.77 million. Shares outstanding 2.2. The shares short is irrelevant because the stock started running after the last update. So we're not going to look, obviously you're going to ignore that. So once again, hot sectors can be a big catalyst, and that has been a big catalyst for a lot of these plays that have been running. And don't ever get overly biased on the long or the short side. As we'll talk about now in the next slide, um, we have to review the price action of the chart of the stock rather and see what the stock's done historically. One other rumor to talk about is a buyout rumor. Typically, I have guys in the chat room and people emailing me all the time. What about this stock? There's a buyout rumor. I could make $1 a share. There's speculation that this thing's going to get bought out for $10 and it's trading at $9. Ignore, ignore, ignore. There's no edge on these types of plays, so do not play them. Put them on ignore, and you will be better off. So those are your main catalysts. There are some other ones, but I just want to focus on the biggest ones, and a lot of commentary and a lot of further explanation on these catalysts is in Tim's DVDs, which you'll come across as you learn the basics and go through. For those of you that are new, so these are things we're going to look up for the stocks that we're researching today. Why is the stock up? What is the catalyst? The more catalyst, the greater the odds. And then the other big thing, where is the longer term and the short term support and resistance? Fundamental part of trading 101. You always have to look several years back, focus on clean charts typically, avoid longer term bag holder charts. Again, a lot of these chart patterns are discussed in Tim's DVDs, so you should be familiar with them. But I think these are really good points in terms of quickly recognizing charts that are potentially tradable charts versus charts that are not tradable, and understand that the vast majority of plays are not tradable. So if you can learn to quickly distinguish the differences between clean charts, ideal setups that have the catalysts, whether it's a potential breakout or a potential breakdown, whether it's a pump or an earnings winner, etc. Once you're able to quickly put all these pieces of the puzzle together, you're gonna block out all the irrelevant stuff that a lot of you keep asking about in the chat room. And that's absolutely critical for your success. So we're going to talk about ideal risk reward a little bit later, but let's get into the details of the research itself. Why the stock's up, what's the catalyst, and where's the longer term and shorter term support and resistance. And once we look at all of these things, we can determine whether or not the stock is worthy of being on our watch list as a potential long or a potential short. And for those of you that are asking in the chat room, I'm just looking through some questions. Yeah, I use E-Trade, and again, please save your questions for later, but I am going through your questions just to see if there's anything I've left out. So E-Trade had shares of BSPM. We'll talk about that later, but you know, looking for shares to short, having brokers and all that sort of thing, I don't want to get into right now. As most of you know, or if not all of you should know, Interactive Brokers and E-Trade are the main brokers, as well as Centerpoint. Centerpoint, which I do not trade at currently, I've traded with them before. They are the main ones. I know some of you guys are still trading at SureTrader. but I don't recommend them, and have never actually traded there. Or actually, I have traded there for a very brief week or so, and then I quickly learned to stay well away. All right, so let's jump into this, guys. We're gonna go back to our potential plays. We're looking at the 620 watch list. NVCN. So let's look at NVCN. I wanna pull up the chart. First things first. See what's going on here. As I said, always look at every time frame. So this is a 1-year chart. We'll start with a 30-day chart. So 30-day chart, the stock's up from 40 cents to as high as $1.20. Finished at 84 cents today. Traded almost 30 million shares. But you will see the longer you take the chart out, the uglier it gets. And this is where we are, folks. We're all the way at the dead bottom, under the dirt. And it's almost impossible to get out of the ground. Once you're in the dirt, good luck getting back out of the ground. And that's where this stock is. Maybe I'd love for this thing to, as a short bias trader, I'd love to see this squeeze higher. But it looks to me like today was a first red. Well, it did not go red. I should correct myself, but it did gap up from 80 cents to 109. It hit $1.20 and then ended up fading all the way down. So there's the intraday chart for today. NVCN. Let's do some research. NVCN. Why was it up? What is the catalyst? Rinse and repeat, guys. So I just see a bunch of lawsuits against this company, which doesn't surprise me. They announced positive results from a study using the reducer product were published in the Netherlands Heart Journal, documenting 23 consecutive patients implanted with reducer to treat refractory angina. So they had a positive release on in some cardiology journal. Sounds very sketchy. The company's 57 million market cap. Let's take a quick look at the profile. They have according to this, they have 197 employees out of Canada. So I'll take a quick look at the PR. Michael Good does a good job of looking through these PRs. I don't like to put too much emphasis on the PRs. Typically, these companies are junk, and they're putting out either old news, or they're just trying to hype up their study that they're working on. So they had an article titled "Safety and Efficacy of a Device to Narrow the Coronary Sinus for the Treatment of Refractory Angina, Single Center Real World Experience." So looks like it was pumped in some quote unquote pumped. They had a paper documenting the results. All 23 patients were successfully implanted in a day hospital setting without any adverse events. So I don't want to get too much into it. NVCN. One other thing that I want to know is, what are people saying on Twitter? And we're going to add that to the pre-flight checklist. And we're going to go on twitter.com. All of you should be on Twitter. We're going to look on Twitter to see what people are saying. Ideally, people that I follow, that I recognize. I want to know what people like Adam Feuerstein are saying, if anything at all. Sometimes these companies are such junk that they won't even comment about them, but sometimes they will. And you can see Tim has a video lesson on NVCN. So obviously, quite a lot of traders talking about their wins. Um, how do you like this one? NVCN longs who chased this morning, throwing themselves over a cliff and drowning. Kind of like this woman who just fell onto her water fountain, whatever that was. And yeah, Modern Rock, he shorts. He's a very short bias trader, and he posts a lot of stuff. Kind of comedy actually, just making fun of some of these plays that are running for no apparent reason, or for no good reason, I should say. Um, so I don't really see anybody in particular that's commented on NVCN, but I think it's pretty obvious from the price action, the longer term chart, that you should not get sucked into this. Uh, this stock was already running on Friday, and so it was already running into this PR this morning. So a lot of people that were buying, and you probably had some, on Friday, probably some people that were shorting, that were covering on the gap up. And this stock's just not up enough for me to really be excited about a short. If it runs to $1.50, $1.80, $2 from 40 cents, I'm ready to attack. But right now, it's all the way back to 84 cents, and I don't really see a good play in here. I mean, if you were looking to buy the dip, this turned out to be the bottom in the 80-cent area, and it bounced up to 99. So not bad, but not great. And this is up from 40 cents to $1.20. It's a $50 million company, and I just cannot advise you guys to be buying, especially after it's run up. So today would not, if the price action was better, perhaps you might have considered, but let's look at the key statistics on NVCN. We're looking at the shares outstanding, 67 million shares outstanding. The float's 41.7 million, so 42 million in the float. Lots of bag holders, guys. Don't get caught up in junk plays. Now, if you were early, if you want to try buy the morning spike at $1 and sell at 120, good luck. I mean, you have to be extremely quick, and I don't see any great risk reward buying these long-winded downtrending charts that have so many bag holders, and you better be out quick. And again, you have to buy on the dip. You have to buy near a nice round number to even have a chance. And I just cannot, in this case, I cannot advise buying. I don't believe that it's good risk reward, and there's not really any good support, longer term support or short term support for that matter. And too many of you guys are trying to find the next play that's running off this base in a chart that's down, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% off of its recent highs. And you're just, vast majority of the time, these stocks are not going to keep going. And when they do, they become great shorts because it's just a short squeeze when they do run up. We'll talk about some plays that potentially in a similar situation that could be a good buy if the catalyst was very solid and the price action was better. So NVCN, I'm gonna leave it on my watch list. I'm gonna say this is a uh, I'm gonna create one more slide at the very top here. We're gonna call this the 620 watch list. And again, guys, this should not be new to you. A lot of you guys should have already watched Tim Fundamentals Part 2, where Tim goes through this research process, and it's just rinse and repeat, nothing new. So NVCN is a junk biotech that is bouncing off its all-time lows on news of results, of data results published in foreign journal. Lots of bag holders here. Ideally, shorts are, let's say, over-aggressive shorts are squeezed, and ideally over-aggressive shorts are squeezed, and this is a potential short in the mid to high ones. So we're just going to put NVCN, we'll say no play as of now, needs to spike more. All right, so that's NVCN. Let's look at GSAT. And I like Janan's comment here. NVCN gonna go to zero before it can be a hero. Yeah, I mean it's junk. You can see all the shareholder alerts, lawsuits that are going on. All right, so let's move along here. We're gonna look through GSAT very quickly. GSAT, you guys should be familiar with. Those of you that have been around a few months, if not longer. Um, they are seeking FCC approval, which is a catalyst, and there's a lot of speculation going on here. Tim tried dip buying it today, and it did not. It actually had a morning panic and then bounced off the 120s right back to the 130s. But this is really a no play unless there is confirmed news of an FCC approval and there's a really positive catalyst here. So right now it's just speculation. I don't want to get too much into the story here. Let's assume that this is just speculative. It could go either way. The odds are with this chart, I'd be very surprised if this comes all the way back and squeezes shorts. But you never know. Sometimes the news trumps the chart, guys. So there's no good odds holding long or holding short because you could get smoked either way, whether there's bad news or good news, depending on the position you have. So GSAT, I would say leave it alone. When you have a technical breakout, like you did here on this big green candle on some rumors, then it's okay. Buy it and get out quickly. but I was actually I was shorting this in the 250s, and if you look at the price action going back some time, um, this thing broke 250 key 250 area, and then it faded down to the 220s. Then you had a big panic and sell off when one of the um, decision makers voted against it. So uh, again, the technicals have to be there. The catalyst here is news sensitive, is news related, and therefore, if we go back to our catalyst slide, it's not an earnings winner, not a contract winner, not, at one point it was a breakout. It's not a pumper promotion, not a hot sector, not a buyout rumor. And in this case, it's speculative potential news. Ignore in most cases. So we're gonna add this to the pre-flight checklist as another catalyst, which we should be ignoring. Now, again, if GSAT were to come out with some kind of approval and there's a good reaction, and of course a big short squeeze, it becomes a buy. But trying to guess overnight, not good risk reward. It's speculative. It's news sensitive. Ignore in most cases. So I'm gonna leave GSAT. Well, I tell you what. I'm gonna add it. I'm gonna add it just so we have it on here. GSAT is a news sensitive play awaiting FCC approval. Could go either way, but has already crashed off initial spike to the mid twos and low threes. No play until there is a definitive decision. Remember, when you have a binary event, like whether it's an approval or a or something that's not approved, like a biotech, it's just a 50-50. It's a guessing game, and you do not want to get involved in guessing games. And you'll hear Tim talk about these guessing games time and time again, which you must avoid. All right, so let's look at some other plays. LPTN. So this was a low floater from today. We're going to look at LPTN. Assume that we know nothing about it. Do our standard research. Market cap 7 million. We look at the key statistics. Shares outstanding 2.36. The float's 1.9, as you see here on the right side. And let's look at the summary. I believe they had a PR today. And it still ended up 44%, so not bad, but it obviously moved so quickly. So they received a 1.45 million two-year grant from the Defense Medical Research Development Program Agency of the U.S. Department of Defense. Not bad. I mean, that's pretty good, but the key is looking at the chart. So let's look at LPTN. look at the longer term chart. Here's a 200-day chart. So this stock actually ran a little bit on very, very low volume back in April. Let's look out at 1 year, trading at the bottom of the range. And you can see that this is typical penny stock territory. So likely they did a reverse split, which is how they got their all-time high. Was definitely not $240 a share, but they did so many reverse splits, which would explain why this the stock's trading at these prices. So LPTN is a contract winner. If you're fast enough, you could buy it in the low threes. It did hit 405, but no surprise, it came all the way back. It's the longer term chart is junk. Yes, it's a low float, so it's dangerous to short. I'd short this if it ran several days. Tim talks about not shorting contract winners, but understand that most of these plays are such horribly managed companies, and while they might be getting some money to continue their research or operations, the longer term prognosis for the company is not very good, and that is why you see these failed spikes most of the time. Not everyone's going to be like BSPM that runs for multiple days. BSPM, I would say, is an exception. We talked about the low float mania, biotechs. So this did hold its gains initially in the first few days and then ran up even more. LPTN, no sir, that's not going to happen. And if it did, I'll be welcoming it too, because I'll look to short it. So my guess is the volume will fade off on this. It's likely a no play, but I will put it on my watch list just to emphasize why or why not or what I would look to be doing on this kind of play. So LPTN was a low flow contract winner with I believe it was at the Navy Defense Medical Research and Development Program, Department of Defense. This has a horrible longer term chart, and while it could potentially run further as low floats have done lately, the odds are it fades back to where it came from. If you were quick enough to buy it in the low threes and sell in the mid to high fours, it was a reasonable long. But understand that most of these plays spikes will not last long. So you always have to sell very quickly into the spikes. If you're trading a small account and you see the catalyst in the morning, it's a contract winner, it's a low float. For those of you guys with small accounts, don't chase it. Buy it. You can buy it. It's at even at $2.99, it's already up 45%. So I can't advise. Tim bought this in the low threes, but I don't believe that this was an ideal type of play. It's not a former. I mean, it did run a little bit on low volume, not the ideal kind of play. Once again, for those of you trading tiny accounts, I mean, you could take 1,000 shares, risk 20 cents if you buy it right near the open at 3, and if it comes back down to 280, take your 200 loss. On the flip side, sell it at 360 to 380. The only reason I would say you could potentially buy it, it's a low float. That is a big catalyst in this recent market we're in. It's not a biotech, but it is a low float. It's not really a breakout. So understand what you're trading. I cannot emphasize that strongly enough. So LPTN, I know some of you guys bought it, and if it spiked more, if it did spike or got more news, then let's add this in here. If this stock potentially got more good news / catalysts, I'd consider buying, but the odds are that this initial move will not last, as I said in the last sentence. So I'm being somewhat repetitive here, and let's move on to some other some other plays. So let's look at TLOG. TLOG, you can see ran from 32 to 48 cents today on a few million, let's see, 4 million shares. Longer term chart stinks. When I see these longer term charts, I just wonder why, some traders are chasing and looking for the next big runner. Most of these plays will not go anywhere, and this is why. Look at this chart. So I'm not even gonna look at this one. I'm taking this one off. TLOG. I'll have a quick look to see if there was any news. Looks like there was no news. I'll do a quick search on just to show you guys the importance of being meticulous. You can see this guy said back from the dead. A lot of penny stock traders talking, about potential runners. But remember, the vast majority of these will not run. And you have people drawing charts trying to show you why this is a breakout. Ignore. Unless there's a very good catalyst, let's say they got $50 million contract, or some billionaire investor came in and bought half the company. Something very extreme. So I'm going to avoid that one. Let's take that one off. FATE. Some of you guys were looking at that one today. Again, look at the chart. Why the hell are you buying a chart that is all the way down here? Unless it's, again, an incredibly good catalyst, I'm not interested. So let's look at FATE. They received fast track designation for immune for the reduction of incidence severity of acute graft versus host disease in patients undergoing allogeneic hematopoietic cell transplantation. I can't even read their PR because it's so wordy. But so another one of these biotechs. So they're they're adding data. They're reviewing or they're announcing some data a few days ago. They're getting fast track designation. For those of you who don't know what that is, go to Google. Fast track designation just means that they can move along in the process. You can see fast track is a designation by the U.S. Food and Drug Investigation for expedited review to facilitate development of a drug with treat or serious or life-threatening condition. So they got the fast track designation. That is good news, but look at the profile of the company and see what they're working on. You know, again, the chart sucks on this company, this stock. And typically biotechs are not ideal, so I'm going to leave it alone. It's a horrible chart. No, thank you. So FATE out the door. No thanks. I know some people were buying it, and I just can't emphasize the importance of doing this research so you know to avoid it. Avoid these kind of plays. MCUR, another play that got crushed off of its highs, coming from the dead. And again, you can see a pattern here. A lot of these plays coming back. We've just been in that sort of environment, and traders like to see this. They see this base and they think, well, it's going to break out, and you know, it's up from $1 in the $1.20s to the $1.50s, and then it probably will flame out, just the way it did over here, just the way it did over here, and it'll likely do it again here. So if it spiked enough, I'd consider shorting MCUR. Let's see what the news was today. Let's first look. The market cap's 25.6 million. Let's look at the float is 6.8, and no significant shares short. Average volume 347,000 shares. So let's see, no particular news. Let's look at Twitter, see if there's anything going on here. Okay, so it looks like people are speculating that there'll be reverse merger news. So this is, you know, speculation. This guy talks about a breakout, potential breakout. So I'm gonna mark it down as a MCure is a former runner that always sells off after, that typically, we won't say always, but that typically sells off after day 2 or 3. There is some speculation regarding a potential reverse merger, which has been a hot sector. HMNY, for instance, is a good example. Don't believe the hype. Likely this is a potential short, but be aware of possible news. So I'm gonna you know, understand that this is likely a potential short if it runs, you know, enough. to the ideally to the twos. MCUR's market cap, as we said, is 25 million, so it's up 18%. Not up enough to really consider shorting. I would only consider buying if indeed the reverse merger news came and there was some hype. But until that comes, it's really just one to watch. So I'm going to say potential short if it spikes enough. But be careful of possible news. If indeed this is a reverse merger play, it could gain traction and become a potential buy. So you have to think about both sides of the coins. But remember that most of these stocks are garbage, and they're not to be. You should not be long biased unless there's a definitive catalyst that is very likely. Let's just fix that. All right. All right, how are we doing on time? We're at 6 o'clock Eastern. We're going to try wrap this up within the next half hour, guys. So bear with me. Let's go through the remaining plays, and then we'll talk about some other existing plays from prior days. BLIN, we're going to go through that real quick. No surprise, this is a low float play, if I remember correctly. BLIN came up in all of our scanners, up 16% today, market cap of 7 million. I see a theme once again. These low float, $6, $7, $8 million market cap plays have been running, and looks like they had. This is a contract winner today. They announced that a global software and service company targeting the healthcare, legal, and finance space selected their engagement platform to power its law and business education system. So they don't give any numbers in terms of the contract. They just say they've been selected. So we don't have any numbers. We could get another PR with some hype on this. I would say let's look at the chart first, see what's going on here. BLIN. It got crushed from the highs back on June the 8th. Let's see what was going on June the 8th. And looks like that was earnings. So it gapped up on earnings and then just gradually faded all the way back. And that's, again, another reason why I say not low flow junk. Does that mean this company couldn't go back to 3 or 4 or 5? No, I mean, it could, but there's a reason why it sold off and came all the way back down. They're in the U.S. They work with engagement management products platforms in the U.S. Look at their balance sheet. They've got 154 grand. Okay, need I say more? This company has $154,000. Which makes me wonder how they must have a so their cash flow, they need money desperately, Bridgeline. So My guess is they're going to do a financing. Um, I'm looking now at their income statement. You can see they're actually making money. Um, before operating their operating income they're losing, but gross profit they're actually making some money. Um, but the company is not profitable. So this company needs money desperately. Um, you can see they're presenting it. This was on May 25th, presenting at a microcap conference. So very typical penny stock that needs money. Uh, no surprise, they need to really hype themselves up, and this is not a stock I'd be buying. Uh, the odds that it goes back. I mean, it could spike again, but this is just this is what happens. Every spike is sold into. So Blinn is a former runner. If you're here long enough, you'll see that this. I'm trying to remember when this was. Yeah, it ran back in 2012 from the twos all the way up to the 15, 16. So I would not expect this to do much. And as I said, they need money, so they need cash. So um, again, this I wouldn't necessarily. I'm just going through the the key research components so you can see what I've discovered. Uh, most of the stuff I wouldn't even watch tomorrow, but I want you to get used to the research uh, procedures. So Belen is a former runner that's up on potential contract win, no confirmed figures. The chart is horrible, like most other penny stocks, and the company needs cash badly. So um, I would say no play. I'm going to say this potential short if it spikes enough, but likely no play. Um, all right, so that's Blinn. Um, STEM and NTN, we'll go through those really quickly. STEM, also an absolutely shocking chart. Um, and you'll have people trying to buy it down here thinking it's breaking out of a base. And I'm not even going to do the research on STEM. This is such a horrible chart. I don't believe they even had, unless they had some really good catalyst. Looks like there's no news. Maybe that there might be some rumors of a reverse split or reverse. You can see here, stem cells can't fix its problems. Oh, they already tried a reverse split, or by burying it's bad news. So we're going to avoid stem. Horrible longer term chart, not doing much. And that leaves us with NTN. You can see that it ramped up from 6 to 9 today. But the volume is quite poor. Let's look on Yahoo Finance, see if they had anything going on. I don't see anything. Let's look on Twitter. I don't see any particular news on this. It had an insider buy, which is, I'm going to assume it's just traders looking for, I'm going to check one other thing, guys, to see if perhaps this had a catalyst, but I believe that it probably does not. And it's a reverse split, so that's likely why you have traders chasing it, because it's a reverse split. And I just don't think that that's worth my time, or your time for that matter. So NTN and STEM, no thank you. So those are the main plays from today. And then the plays that you should have been watching from before, MGT obviously was one pump. Then you have BSPM, you have HMNY, and you have let's see, EXAS is a higher priced one, which I've been trying to trade lately. EMES is another overextended chart that I've been trying to play. So let's go through those, and then we'll wrap it up and do some quick questions, Q&A. But again, let's re-emphasize, why is the stock up? What's the catalyst? More catalysts equal greater odds. So always look for breakouts to support a hot sector catalyst, or potentially a contractor earnings winner. And then, of course, for short bias traders like myself, which all of you guys should be looking to do as well, on the backside of these moves, look for the reversal to short, as I mentioned here, on these hot sectors, on these pumps, and on low float junk like BSPM, which we'll talk about. And we'll get to this as well, ideal risk reward, and that just goes along with the analysis of the support resistance lines and where the stock's been trading. Ideally, you must have a 3-to-1 risk reward, meaning you should be looking to make 50 cents to $1 a share, with downside of roughly 15 to 30 cents a share, depending on the price of the stock. So you always have to have your game plan, entry, exit points. Otherwise, don't trade the setup. Only focus on stocks that meet criteria number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Most stocks offer bad risk reward. Avoid. And let's review number 1, 2, and 3, and 4 again, because I can't emphasize it all enough. Identify the big percent gainer, ideally a former runner, and a predictable one. Look at the float, the shares outstanding, the number of shares short. Why is the stock up? Look at the catalysts. Determine whether or not it's a potential buy or a potential short based on the catalyst. Typically, most of these stocks are hyped up, and they will come back down. Even earnings winners can certainly keep going, and plays like CLF and ORIG, which I had bought around 280, or I think it was in the 260s. But the point is, it was an earnings winner, and it was in a hot energy sector when energy plays were running. So put the pieces of the puzzle together, and then you're looking at the longer and shorter term support, and that's really when you're going to develop your risk reward and determine the criteria that we just talked about. And so before I go back to some of the plays that we have been watching over the past few days and weeks, we talk about trading key times. focusing on the first 1.5 hours, 9:30 to 11 a.m. Eastern. Last 2 to 3 hours, I just put 2 hours, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. Limit your trading day. Don't get too caught up in trades during midday, as you guys know. So always refer back to the Tim Line DVD if you need more guidance on the trading the key times of day. And finally, you're going to execute. You're going to ride the winners per the trading plan. Make sure you're executing on the best risk reward setups, the ideal setups, and avoiding the plays that have no edge, no good risk reward, and cut losses quickly. Sometimes a trade doesn't go the way we think it will, and that is our number one rule, as Tim always discusses: cut losses quickly per the trading plan. So let's talk about BSPM really quickly, and a couple of other plays. This was a perfect afternoon fade. We talk about late day trading and trading the last 2 hours of the day, the sideways price action, first red day, BSPM, junkie play, as we talked about a little bit earlier. And this is a fantastic risk reward going into tomorrow. Very good odds of another red day with a test of the low fours, perhaps even the threes. And BSPM, once again, I did my homework. I knew what I was trading. The float, the market cap's 10.6 million, which is very, very, very little. But the company, if you do the research, as I showed you, look on Twitter, see what's going on. Key statistics. We'll take it one at a time. Shares outstanding 2.2. The float's 1.77. So that's why it ran. It was a low floater, which was part of the hot sector. Let's look at the balance sheet, and this is something else that I want you guys to do, and I'm going to add this to the pre-flight checklist. March 31st, 2016, the company had 91,000 bucks. So that's enough said. The company's barely staying afloat, and for good reason. It's a $10 million company, which is probably way overvalued. This likely goes bankrupt or gets delisted, I would say. But BSPM, the best, I would say, one of the best potential, or the best short, one of the best shorts overnight. And so let's add that to our pre-flight checklist. We're going to say number 2A, how much cash does the company have on hand? Look on Yahoo Finance. And let's also say, what is their quarterly burn rate? And what I mean by that is, how much money are they burning each quarter? And so let's just do the quick example. BSPM, we look at their cash. We said we're on the balance sheet down here. We look at quarterly data, and you can see these all numbers are in thousands, so they have 91,000 cash. We look at the cash flow statement to determine their cash burn rate. So this is the cash flow statement, and you can see they actually have positive cash flow in each of the last few years, which is quite interesting. But let's look at their quarterly data. So they actually, the last 4 quarters, they They lost 2.4 million. Again, these numbers are in thousands. 646,000 cash flow, cash out the door. In this quarter, they got 6.0 million, 6.1 call it, um, and that was likely from a, let's see, I don't want to get too um, detailed here uh, in terms of where or how this number comes about. If I, that's for another day in terms of digging through the SEC filings. Uh, and you can see that they had very little cash flow coming in on the 31st uh, of at the quarter ending March 31st. Income statement, you can see they lost 25 million on December 31st. As of last year, the year ending 2015, they lost 620K first quarter of 2016. So never been profitable. Uh, Lots of red flags here. You could do some more SEC filing research, dig through the numbers and see what's going on. But understand that you should be looking at the cash, how much cash they have, what is their quarterly burn rate, which is what we just looked at on the cash flow statement, which is under cash flow here in the financials. Let's look at the company is in China, so I rest my case. Most of these plays are absolute garbage. Um, they say they have 430 employees. Um, you do have to be careful though that it's a low float and news can come out. I could get squeezed, um, and I'm just here for the chart for the very fact this stock is up from $1 to as high as 640 on no real news other than the fact that I believe there was some kind of reverse split or reverse merger involved here. So BSPM first red day, solid setup for me and for anybody really that likes to short. Uh, so that's BSPM. MGT will be the last one I'll go through. We're gonna look at the basics again, assuming that you don't know anything. MGT. Let's look first on Yahoo Finance. You'll see that it's an 80 million market cap, and they've just been constantly pumping their PR feed with newly appointing new advisory board members, and they even did another one today. So I hope they keep. I guess this is partly what lit up the reverse merger sector, and I believe this also is a reverse merger. So you have John McAfee involved, who is part of McAfee way back when, before it became a big company. But understand the catalyst here is a pump. You had excessive spiking and the big crash, and now the bounce, which so far it's holding 3. It was a good short on Friday and a good short this morning. Now it's bouncing and perhaps going to find a comfort zone or whatever you want to call it, in the low threes and find some support, I should say, equilibrium, if you want to call it that. Um, so MGT, I continue to watch it, and I'm going to add those two. Those are really the main ones. So MGT is the pump that has bounced back off to support, or I guess it was 250 support. 250 support. This was a great buy in the twos. As over aggressive shorts were predictably squeezed. The stock is now down 20% off its recent high. No play. Hopefully it squeezes up over the coming days and becomes a solid risk reward short once again. ESPM, let's go over that again, is a low floater that had its first red day today. I'm short. I shorted the afternoon breakdown in the 520s before it cracked to the 470s. Good odds of a morning panic tomorrow down to the low fours or even the mid to high threes. I probably wouldn't hold that long, but realistically, it's not out of the question. EXS and EMES, I'm going to leave those off just because we're under time constraints now, and I want to take some Q&A. But these are bigger companies, so they're not ideal. Which is we have enough that's on watch for tomorrow. So I'm going to leave EXAS. EMES also is a play that's up, but it's been consolidating in the 9s and the 10s, so not ideal. This is energy. Remember that. EXAS is biotech. It's mid to large cap. It's a billion-dollar company. A lot of people say that it shouldn't be up here on the recent news, but respect the price action, respect the chart, and understand that there are better setups out there rather than trying to speculate on biotech with recently positive news. So, and then HMNY is becoming e-liquid. There haven't been many shares to short. It's in the low float sector, as we talked about. But for time constraints, I'm going to leave it at that. This webinar is going to be available for your review, so you can go through all of these critical research procedures as part of your pre-flight checklist before you determine what you want to trade. And I just want to make this uniform again. So let's open it up to Q&A, guys. As we talked about, you have to develop your ideal risk reward using the support zones, trade during the key times of the day, and then execute. Cut the losses quickly if the trade go against you, but always remember to ride winners, and that's how you're going to build up your account. So uh, let's take some Q&A, and then we'll wrap it up here in the next 10 minutes or so. All right, so Sprinter is asking about making the presentation available for download. I will do that. Let me give me a few minutes later on today, and I will definitely post this presentation so that you're able to access it. And of course, you can watch the webinar on demand as well. Yes, the presentation will be available for download, as I said. Bonk Rock asks what classifies as a stock being low floater. Low floaters are typically 1 to 3, pretty much any stock that's, I would say, 5 to 6 million shares or less. Jerry asks, how do you determine whether there's an excess of bag holders? I mean, just look at the chart. We looked at several charts today, and we determined uh, that a lot of these charts were bag holder charts, meaning they're at the very bottom of their range. Just pull up a 3-year history, and you'll see that it's a bag holder chart. If you're in the very the dead end, the lows of the 3 to 5 year range, you're in a bag holder chart. Even in, you look at the 2-year chart, I mean, you do get these bounces which look rather big, but because it's a low floater, it's magnified. But on a longer term scale, you'll see that the move is very insignificant, especially because there's not many shares out there. That is why low floats are volatile, and they can move more than you might think because of the nature of the stock. Spitfire on a quad asks about news. He says many times news comes out right after the market close. How or when can we get this news the day it comes out instead of waiting until next day before the market open? So I would say the chat room. You've got to be in the chat room. If you're not at your computer, leave the chat room running. You can always look at the chat room log later on in the evening. Go to Profitly, and you can look at let's see if I can pull that up for you guys. Go through the chat room log. You'll be able to pull up what people have been talking about. Let's see here. So go to Tim Challenger newsletter, chat archive. So go to chat archive, and you'll see what people are talking about. Let's see if anything's going on here. I would also look at the Tim Alerts in the Tim Alerts room just in case. There are obviously more traders in the Tim Alerts room. Go to the chat archive there as well. See what people are saying. This is just one way to do it, guys. You can look on Twitter. But don't be forcing the issue in terms of trying to find something that is a potential play in the morning. Let the volume come in and then react accordingly. Check out the catalyst, see if there's anything going on. behind the move. And this perhaps came out after hours. OXGN, which is a junk play. And I won't get into it, but you can see that it's running. So that's one way to do it. The checklist is I would say for percent gainers, we're gonna add one more thing to the checklist, and that is the chat room, because I can't emphasize enough the importance of the chat room. You've got a lot of people in the chat room, and they are identifying a lot of these plays that are in as potential buys or potential spikers in the morning. So all right, so absolutely critical to use the chat room as well. Sprinter says you said to avoid low floaters, but it seems low float was also on your hot list or something. So should we always avoid low floaters, or we do trade them? Well, again, you have to be very selective. If the low float play is ideal, for instance, we've been in a market where low floats have been hot. That doesn't mean just buy any low float. Like LPTN today, it is low float, but the catalyst wasn't that great. Not that significant of a catalyst. But understand that we've been in a market where low floaters have run, and that's a good catalyst. Was it a good breakout? No, we talked about that. There wasn't a good breakout with LPTN. So the pieces of the puzzle have to really fit nicely. You want to look for this kind of stuff. Technical breakouts. If it's an earnings winner and a contract or a contract winner that is a low float play, then it becomes a very nice buy opportunity. MGT fit that criteria of what I believe it was a low float when it first started out. They've issued so many shares now, but MGT, nobody thought it would go that much, and I couldn't really, jump in. For me, I as being a short bias trader, I wasn't going to jump in and buy, but sometimes these plays can go, and when you see support hold and hold and hold, and everyone says that it's a short and it must come down, those kind of plays where you can you look to potentially buy if the price action holds up, and that's where you can really increase your account size. Another good example is GEVO. GEVO, I did a video lesson on it. They had the news with the catalyst with the airlines. You had traders who were anticipating the news that they were going to do their first test flight with the fuel partner with Alaskan Airlines, and the news finally they PR'd. There was a PR in the morning saying that the flight was going to happen, that the company would comment on it later in the day, and that was a fantastic buy. I mean, this GEVO had a solid catalyst, and of course it was a fantastic short. I would have been shorting aggressively like Tim Grittani in the ones, but it was just as good a buy, and I was alerting at 54. I wasn't keen on holding it overnight, but it turned out to be a fantastic long overnight. And then they did a financing, and it got crushed. And that's why I always say you don't overstay your the time in the stock. Take the meat of the move and get out. And you had the catalyst. You had a news catalyst, anticipated news catalyst in GEVO. In this case, it was not a low float, but there was a catalyst involved. And that's going to be part of your research, guys. You have to research and see what the hell's going on. All right, so what else we got? Let's answer a few more questions and we'll wrap it up. All right, so my email is mark, M-A-R-K, dot C-R-O-O-C-K, and let's add timothysykes.com. I'm going to put that here in the chat box. I'm going to put also in all right, so there it is, mark.crook at timothysykes.com. And you're very welcome to email me. This is for challenge students who have questions. And I will almost always refer back to this webinar or to other resources because the answers are always there. So make sure you're doing your research and your homework before you're sending questions that are very easily answered. Let me see if there's anything else that I missed. Bay Harbor Butcher, love your name. I'm a big fan of Dexter. What do you look at the next day if none of your tickers are in play? So if there's nothing in play from my watch list and there's nothing really running in the morning that has a good catalyst, again, guys, look at the catalyst. Catalyst. Don't just blindly play it. Too many chat rooms are looking at a chart, looking for a breakout, without there being a secondary or, the breakout should be the secondary catalyst. There should be a dominant catalyst that would really propel the stock, whether it's an earnings winner, whether it's a hot sector like we've seen lately with the low flows. So if there's nothing moving in the morning, then just sit in the sidelines and wait till something sets up. You cannot force setups when there's nothing there. At what point will MGT chart change and not be a supernova anymore? Well, MGT, I mean, it's it's all jargon, right? I mean, this is a supernova. Now it consolidated in the low twos, and this could just hang around between 2 and 3 for another month for all we know. So it kind of reminds me of that chart TRXC, which was a pump. This is already like quite some time. Oh, this thing went from $1.70 to $5.50. It consolidated. It got pumped. Eventually, this was actually FDA related. They submitted a device for ND. I believe it was a device to get approval, kind of surgical device. Anyways, the main idea here is that it was a pump. They got the stock up, and then the bad news hit, and it crashed. So typically, this held the twos for quite some time, and then it got crushed down to the low ones. So MGT likely happens the same thing. These pumps never end well, but we'll see. I mean, stranger things have happened if they actually develop a good product or some type of positive news flow or continued news flow. You never know, but you have to be short biased on these kind of junk plays and understand that the insiders involved here are all getting shares and likely going to sell off whenever they can or as quickly as they can. And I'm glad you guys are liking it. A lot of you guys said this is one of the best webinars, so I'm glad that this is really helping. so somebody was talking about the EYES, and that it was mentioned in the chat room right before it started that end of the day spike. Did you come across it by chance? What happened there? Yeah, EYES. I saw it on Twitter, and Twitter. I can't emphasize this tool as well enough. Um, Twitter. I look through my news feed to see what some of these traders are saying. I'm a sports guy as well, so sometimes I have sport unrelated stuff which I should separate. Uh, but I saw there was a guy. The name, I believe his name was I'm blanking on his name, but you can go through the list of people that I follow. Also look at Michael Good. I follow about 166 people. Michael Good has some good webinars where he talks about following people on Twitter. He's actually following 313. So you really have to just pick and choose through the people that are um, tweeting, good, or effective information, stuff that you can use to make your trading decisions. And always type in the ticker the same way I showed you earlier to see what people are saying. You can tell pretty quickly whether it's just a pumper or whether it's somebody credible that's talking. And what I mean by that is, let's see, MGT, Investors Live. He's obviously a well-respected trader in the penny stock community, and I follow him. And you can see that a lot of people are commenting on it, making fun of it. A lot of people think it's just going to fall off a cliff. And so I just look through what people are saying. Look at this. Tim Grattani says, I do give props to those able to buy dips on this thing. Mentally too tough for me. So go through, see what, and you can quickly figure out if you're not familiar with the person, you can see what they've historically said. Do they have a lot of followers? Are they competent? Do they know what they're saying? Look at this guy, only has 200 followers. He's an author. He has a book apparently. And so do some research. So a lot of this is just common sense. It's not an exact science, this entire process, but Twitter is definitely a very helpful tool. So a couple more questions. Mark, when shorting the first red day, what indicators do you look at intraday? Do you wait until the afternoon? Yeah, typically first red day like BSPM today, we had sideways price action the whole day. You had a morning panic from 590 down to 530, sideways price action all day. And typically when a stock stays red on the day and then breaks key support in the afternoon, which turned out to be right here at around 3 o'clock, which is where I started shorting. That is the ideal time to be shorting these kind of plays. And these move fast. I mean, this thing moved from 530, 535 down to 479 by the close. So I wish I had all 5,000 shares, but I've got 2,500. It's already hit the 460s, 470s in after hours. So very solid risk reward going into the trading day tomorrow. And I think we're going to wrap it up, guys. So thanks for attending. Please, please, please review the webinar and refer to the DVDs that reinforce everything that I talked about. All of you guys should be going through the resources, the DVDs that you've gotten, Tim Fundamentals Part 2, particularly Tim Line. You know, if you need help in terms of referencing to some certain materials that you need, or you just need general help in something in a particular area with your trading, feel free to email me, but give me some details and show me what you need help with. Make sure you've done your research, because I'm gonna refer you back to a lot of the resources that are at your hands and your fingertips. So thanks so much for attending, guys, and I'm glad a lot of you enjoyed it. Look forward to seeing you in the chat room and working with all of you guys and seeing you guys at the top.
My name is Tim Sykes, and I teach people to trade stocks. I am a self-made multimillionaire.
So this is the ideal trade that I'm going to talk about. I want you guys to understand every single aspect of this trade.